We are about live. So yep, I am doing another open stream where like people can ask questions about this project, and I'd love to have people in the Discord chat. I know I have a Discord integration, so you should be able to see people talking and all that. Should be fun. And yeah, I'm gonna resume where I was last time. No annoying camera work. So yeah. Let's see. Please let me know, anyone watching, if there's like weird echoes. Last time in the recording, I noticed that there was an echo only in other people's voices, which is kind of odd. Um, so I am currently working to blast out the links to everything. It looks like Facebook stream is not working again. Facebook's been odd. I am trying to use Restream to integrate that, and it's not working. So see if I can. I think I'll just link to Twitch from Facebook. I'm trying to get away from Facebook anyways, so I prefer if people follow me on Twitch rather than Facebook. All right. All right, so it looks like Twitch stream is working. All right, so it looks like Sweet. Twitch stream is working. And I'm gonna mute that. All right, should be good here. So yeah, what I've done is I have blocked out a rough scene. This is one of the easiest, earliest tracks for Chroma Circuit, the racing game, and I just basically took a whole bunch of cameras, took a bunch of screenshots of the scene, and I'm just drawing over the screenshots right now. And I'm going to do several passes with different kinds of drawings over each part of the screenshot. And then what I do is I mix and match. So I'm just kind of creating like the raw building blocks right now. They're kind of like narrative building blocks. And so yeah, it's a great way to work. And yeah, I'm gonna get started here. Hello. I am just checking chat here. Subu Labs is greetings and salutations to you as well. All right, I should be about set up here. And I'm gonna be doing additional drawings. Oh, hello, Ghost of Christmas Future. I remember you. It's nice to have you back. All right. So yeah, I'm gonna warm up a little bit. I've been deep in more of like the technical weeds here lately, and so it'd be kind of nice to hit pen to paper here, so to speak. Yes. So I'm just gonna kind of go in, try some of what I know I want. You need to wake up at 4 a.m. Why is that? So right Right now, I'm drawing with kind of Houdini in mind. I have a few. I've been investigating like the Houdini pipeline for my game, trying to decide if it's worth learning. And there are a few relatively simple things that I think might, make it worth the time investment just for those things. And one of those is the ability to quickly sweep splines and have adaptive splines. And what is a spline? A spline is like a line in space. And what I want to be able to do is have, here's a couple of buildings, for instance. And maybe they have these different connector points right here. What I want to be able to do is bring one of these buildings into the game engine and connect it to another building with a spline. So maybe they're hanging and I have a lot of these kind of cobwebby type shapes like this. And what I want to be able to do is dynamically link these buildings with the cobwebs, so that while I'm in the game engine, I can move these around, and basically be able to have these spiderwebby things adapt. I think that'd be super nifty. It would really help create a sense of visual flow, especially the players going along this track, right? And I really want them to get this sense of speed. So having lots of little repeated elements, that's great. So things like fences, we absolutely need fences too. And I've been thinking about different ways to do fences. And I really want to go with this kind of woven. Imagine like a beading and weaving and such. So I really want to have these types of beads along a string. And that's the kind of procedural stuff that Houdini would be really good for. So I could make the rules in that, and then just be able to bring it into the level, and once it's in the level, be able to change it. It's going to be a ton of learning. It's probably going to. It may delay the initial release of the game. Aviagus from YouTube says fiber optic waves. Fiber optic waves. I haven't thought. I mean, you could have them look like fiber optics. Yes. They do. I do want it to have this kind of. Now you have me looking up fiber optic waves here. See if there's this. Oh yeah, like that kind of look. Yeah, a little bit. I don't have any really good examples that I can easily show right now of what I'm trying to do, but I want to have this type of kind of a beading, almost like a beading weaving kind of look. As I flesh these out, you'll get a better idea. Right now, I'm really just trying to figure out kind of the sequence, the player story that's going on here. And I already want to go into some of my old scenes and just kind of change them out. I don't really like the way that looked before. As you can see on the tracks, I'm trying to get some gentle concave and convex going on, so you can see that this track is ever so slightly convex, and that really allows the player to see more of the background. But yeah, back to the waves. I can set simple rules for spacing, geometry. So I might have these. Maybe instead of maybe instead of circles, I can have these little geometrical shapes here. It's little like platonic solids, like little gems. And yeah, oh sweet, hello Nuthans.
Hello.
As you can see, there is Twitch integration on the on my OBS here, so you can actually see your name here.
Oh, nice.
So Adiagis from YouTube asks, "Have you tried Night Cafe?" I have not. Oh, interesting. Oh no, that's not it. I typed in Night Cafe to image search, and that is not what. Oh, it's an AI app generator. No, I have not tried Night Cafe, but I've done similar ones. I have used other softwares, and actually, I have done the very old school way of this back when the only way that there were no services for it at all. And you had to like run a virtual you had to run this virtual Linux build on AWS in order to work, and in order to make it work. It was a huge pain to set up. And so yeah, I should yep, I've actually I have fed in my own images before. It's super fun. It's very addictive. I absolutely love AI tools. I haven't had as much time to mess with them as I used to since I started the game, but they are. Oh, I can cam feed in my own images. Oh, you're talking. Oh, okay, I read that wrong. I thought you said like a camera feed, like you're like real-time camera painting these. There actually is a tool that lets you paint do like AI painting for video. Yeah, it's great for concepting. It's excellent for coming up with like look and feel. It's I love it.
Have you tried the mental canvas, by the way?
Mental canvas. Why does that ring a bell? It sounds really familiar. I don't know. I don't know if I have.
It is kind of a like paint app, but apparently you can like animate it through layers. So you can like it's a mix between Quill and like Procreate.
Is it an infinite canvas? One of those apps?
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah. I wanna try it. I haven't tried yet.
Mental canvas. Yeah, let me write that down here. Sticky
I think
note.
that's the name. Let me double check just to make sure. Not saying anything stupid. Yeah, it's that. Yeah, mental canvas. Yeah, it seems super cool.
Yeah, I the one that I use, I have this thing called Concepts, and what I love about Concepts is that you can actually export your splines, which is I spent so long trying to find how to just export splines. And so yeah, I've got all these art projects. I want to bring them into 3ds Max and make like this whole splinescape, like mindscape kind of thing, where I compile like all of my brainstorming sketches into like this giant like chambered space. And what I love about it is that it's infinite canvas, and it's pretty lightweight, and you have this thing that's you can push and pull at the different splines, and so it's almost a little bit like liquify. It's a little bit unruly, but like you can actually get some really great like if you do like a little gesture drawing, you know, like I don't know, let me do one real quick. You know, something like that, then you can go in and you can like, you know, you can push and pull at the shapes, and you can sometimes get some really like just kind of, it's very fun for just playing. You know, I gotta watch that I don't overlap the drawings. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, back to Procreate. I was talking about, the cobweb stuff right before you jumped on. I have another friend who's coming on pretty soon, who I believe that you have met with before, who helped you with some of the hardware stuff. And so, Adigus asks, what was that Spliny thing? Spliny thing was the Concepts app. It's this orange one right here in my screen. Yeah, I like it. It has some neat templates. I think there might be some better, there's definitely better infinite canvas spline drawers, but the fact that you can actually export this as a file that, a vector app or like 3D app can recognize is like super useful for me. So this is kind of my chill like play program. And here, I think I'm upside down in it. Yeah. I've been doing some designs, just like really whimsical, like car designs. And this is just like the roughest of the rough, where, line width doesn't matter. So yep, it's concepts. They have some unusual like limitations, like all the colors are like Pantone, which is kind of interesting. Where is... that's the highlighter. It has some weirdness for exporting if you try to do anything besides drawing in line. I don't recommend that, but anyways, yeah, so back to this. So yeah, what I like to do when I lay out my thumbnails is to leave a lot of like empty space for taking notes. Oftentimes I'll draw something in the viewport and go, oh, like I want to label this. I want to say like, this is some kind of, platonic solid, or, what I'd like to do ideally, actually, maybe I'll do this going forward, is to think about what things I might add with Houdini and what things I might do with Mesh. And so, I could just literally color code stuff or highlight it with yellow or something, if that's, or maybe red. Red means like, Houdini thing. So I'll go in and so I'll make it like a separate, red layer and say like, this is all the procedural stuff. I'm still, this is kind of, this is my first game of this nature. I worked on a previous game last year, and I decided it's not a game I want to make for my first game. I've not completely shelved it, but I really want to give this real-time thing a go. The other game was more of a puzzle game, and one of the main reasons I shelved it is that I couldn't trust my sense of fun with it, because it wasn't the type of game I would reach for. It made like playtesting pretty difficult. I don't know if I have quite a good enough theory of mind to be able to like project myself into the mind of like, a puzzle game enthusiast. I don't care for solving puzzles that much, really, but I do love racing games and I know what's fun in those. So I'll be happier with playtesting it, and B, I'll be able to trust my instincts with it, and like that's super important. So yeah, racing's solid. Part of it came from too, like I don't play a lot of games, but I do like to keep my ear to the ground, but sometimes when I do want to play a game, I want to play a racing game. And I was on Steam and it was like I couldn't find any racing game that really looked like the kind of game I would want to play. And so it's like, it feels genuine to make something that I just really want to play. The game I was working on last year is a great art game. It's definitely, it's an art game, first and foremost, and it would have been the easiest technically for me to do. A racing game is significantly harder to make, but I really want to learn real-time stuff. I've been curious about it for a long time, and for a while, UE5 is pretty exciting. I'm not making this game in UE5 because I don't think I have a big enough team. Like, there are people who are actively developing for UE5, of course, but it's really not ready. Oh, music sync genre could be good. Yeah, I actually thought about that. I will have audio reactivity in this game. That is a stylistic pillar. But the idea here's the problem with racing and rhythm game. There is one game that feels a little bit like a racing game, which I highly recommend. It is called Cyanide Wild Hearts, and that is a rhythm game that involves a lot of like going forward on a motorcycle kind of bike, super stylish, and you have to like hit things on the beat. With a racing game, it's tough because if you have a universal soundtrack, for example, you know, you're how do you make that work? Like, do you turn on the beat? And if so, what if the beat happens to happen at the wrong time and then you crash into a wall? Like, I feel like there's kind of a game design dissonance there. I thought about maybe like, maybe you throw a weapon on the beat or something. There are currently no assaulting weapons right now, although they are on the table as something that could be added. Yeah, aesthetic sync is absolutely happening for sure. So yeah, we got that. Just no gameplay sync. I'm working on this kind of like palms. This is I'm still working in red because I think I can make these palms in Houdini. They're pretty simple. They're literally just like a spline. You've got a taper. You're basically lofting the spline. You taper to a point, and then you have this kind of feather shape. And I intend to have just, I could either generate it as one big plane that has, black and white mapping on it, like that makes for the fronds of the palm. Or I could make it individual, individual like little fronds, which would be more polys. This building is supposed to be one that's kind of in the middle ground here. So I'm gonna desaturate this because I don't think I want these buildings. Well, maybe some of them will be made with Houdini. I'm trying not to bite off too much more than I could chew. This building here can definitely be made pretty easily in it. Yeah, beat seat could be a bonus, and you're right. It's all about how you frame things in games. Like, if you make something, you make it so you have the exact same amount of player skill, but if they feel like they're consistently going faster because of the actions they're taking rather than being slowed down by the actions they're taking, it's more fun. Even if their raw skill or their speed to the finish line is exactly the same, if you frame it correctly, you can make people feel like they're progressing and they're doing well. And the only way someone might feel bad is if other people are doing more well than they are. Yeah, this is a multiplayer game, which is scary, but it is definitely it's kind of a pillar of like what would make this game a lot more fun. There is a single player mode, and you can lock stuff with it. There's an interesting loan system where you can decide to you can unlock all of the content or like all of the track content ahead of the time for the purposes of split screen multiplayer, but then you're earning the currency in the single player to pay it back. That is intended to solve the problem of like, some people just really want to play with their friends, and the idea of having to sink like many hours into a game just to unlock all the content they can play with their friends is like frustrating. And I really want this game to like respect people's time in the same way that Cyanide Wild Hearts does. It's like that game is not it is not a long game. It's like a couple hours tops. But like it's just it packs a big punch in those couple hours, such that it is like very worth the asking price. This game will have probably more replay value than Sayonara if you do like the multiplayer.
I think I mentioned that in the past too. Sorry, my throat is itchy. Well, you can also like use like different like layered like scenes or like stem files like to respond to your input. So even if you don't have to like you do some bit sync, like the game can like layer like more and more complexity in the music based on like intensity and stuff like that, like depending of like what happened in the game, you know.
Are you talking about like different stems? Like you
Yeah.
can add different stems. Oh yeah, totally. There was an old game for the Nintendo 64. It was it was like the first adventure game I ever saw, and it was called Banjo Kazooie, and it had this really good way of changing the music based on what area you were in, and it was like a musical filter. So it's like when you went underwater, the thread of the music stayed the same, but it had this filter on it, and that's such a great effect for a sense of space. Um, so definitely want to do something like that.
Yeah, I could see some like pretty dynamic effect where like if you're boosting, you know, like suddenly you switch from like drone sound to like like high beat stuff, and the more you like do like combo and the more you like keep these like layers together. So there's a kind of reward as well, like as a player, or like you get the full track and the full intensity like as long as you can keep it going.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, we're gonna have a crazy for the Nova boost. We're gonna have a crazy like sound effect where it's just like bass is boosted and like it's just it's like more intense. There's nothing saying the music has to be synced in multiplayer. You could have like a local track that is off sync with other people's, if you wanted to. Sound is kind of down the line. I haven't given as much thought to sound as some of the other aspects. It is good to keep in mind, but I want to have a solid visual direction to show to show producers and stuff like what we're going for. I'm thinking about doing this kind of forest in this section. We just got out of the tunnel though, and so I don't know if once you get out of the tunnel, it'd be nice to have boom wide open. It's like there's a very dramatic transition from inside to outside. So if I put the forest here, like psychologically, it doesn't feel it doesn't feel as dramatic of a transition.
If you twist the road, people could have like an overhang like view on like the whole landscape, which could be pretty intense.
You mean twist it like along the like left right to the player so that it's like dipping inward, or
like more like upside down. Like,
oh, interesting. Yeah, that could be cool actually. You know what? That's for one of the future ones. I'm trying to make this one in particular like mechanically pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
Something I realized about these that make it a little easier is that from the top-down view, they look like oops. They're sort of like those things that slash your tires if you drive the wrong direction. Because the idea is I want to make sure people don't get turned around, and if they got turned around, they could get stuck in these like little alcove areas.
That's a fun idea.
And and so I don't want anyone like getting stuck. But you could have these little like if you wanted to go like all pinball about it, you could have these little pinball bumpers that are inside of the nooks that just like put a force on the player that like bounces them back if they like accidentally do get stuck in there. That sounds like more work, but something to think about. And yeah, I think last time, you know, I'm gonna make a copy of this just to save pieces, because I said I don't want to do the hanging stuff in this. I'm gonna get rid of all this stuff. Yeah, so something more like this. I think that kind of fits better with the motifs of the world. It's also pretty procedural. I could literally, once again, like, you know, take a spline. I guess this one would be the master spline. Let me go back into my my red here. This would be a master spline, and then I'd have another spline, I guess, that would do this, and then I would bind this one to this one, and that's what this would be here. And then for each of these points, I would generate a piece of geometry, and I want the geometry to have luminosity, so it would be glowing like this. And then I could maybe do it so that the dip. Let me think about this here. Maybe where this dip is, I have it somehow. I want to make it look like it's kind of binding to the tunnel, like there's something that, you know, is attaching it. The entire tunnel might be some kind of like a basket or like a weave kind of a thing. I'm still into the woven tunnel idea. This would be very easily procedural since it's pretty darn simple. Once again, it's just repeating stuff along a spline. And God AM or God Am on Twitch says howdy. Hello, nice to have you in here. Oh, I see a YouTube link has been posted here.
Sketch with the digital.
Oh, Mental Canvas. Okay, I do remember Mental Canvas. I absolutely do, because I downloaded a trial of it and played around with it a bit. And I didn't really get into a flow state with it yet. It was pretty nifty, and I kind of want to give it a little more time, because I absolutely do have that. Just harkening back to way earlier in chat where about that YouTube link that was posted.
Yeah, especially like, at least for me as an environment artist and like, you know, like storyboarder, I'm like, okay, like this is like very efficient to communicate ideas.
Oh yeah. Totally. I'm still trying to decide whether I want to have any water in this track. I really like water features, especially if like the water slows you down or even if it speeds you up. I know Mario Kart does some fun stuff with, like, you know, streams, and your car gets in the stream and goes faster kind of thing. I think that this track, I'm trying to keep this track simple though. This is one of my hardest things as a designer, is like avoiding feature creep. The more procedurally I can approach this now, the more tracks I can have. The more tracks I have, the more I can try a bunch of this stuff. But so just trying to do it one bite at a time here. doing these kind of nested shells here. They look kind of like horns, or I'm thinking about actually, that the Sydney Opera House, some of Zaha Hadid's things. These kind of out, they're almost like little hollow caves. And then this part here is where the player can actually drive. Although this is the line I'm drawing right now is sort of like the railing that keeps them from going over the edge. I really want this to feel kind of like a skate park. A little bit, where you've got these kinds of, you can see, ramps.
We have a guest.
Hello, hello. Oh, Essentia, nice to have you in here. They might still be setting up their audio. Yeah, Essentia's an old friend. We go way back. We do creative stuff together. We've put up art at festivals, and it's cool to have them in chat here. Essentia's been doing some cool stuff in VR. Maybe we can get them to talk about some of their creations in like Neos and stuff like that. I don't know if they can hear me or not. We'll just wait till we can hear them. Well, I'm glad that the Discord thing's working. I wonder, maybe I should I'm just realizing that the chat is getting in the way of some of my drawing. I'm gonna move the little All right. You guys get to see me in real time messing with my UI here. Oh, hi Kevin Spicy. Nice to have you in here again. How's it going? Oh, Essentia says they are having trouble getting audio working. Yeah, Discord can be a bit of a pain to set up. Like right-click your user settings, go to voice and video, or actually just click the little gear next to your name. Go into voice and video and make sure your input and output devices match your headset, and should work. Yeah, I'm doing well, Kevin. I'm busy. I'm working on the most ambitious project I've ever done, and luckily with the help of others, and working on a racing game. So a little bit different from magic art. And so right now I'm kind of brainstorming the tracks. I've got a kind of a gray box mock-up, and I am currently drawing over it and working on like different looks. Adiaga says they did the Chroma circuit logo and the vehicle shot. Reminds me of Roger Dean's Psygnosis era stuff. Interesting. I don't know what Psygnosis is, but I love Roger Dean. I love the look of psychedelic sci-fi. Roger Dean being one of them, Mobius being like an obvious one, and some modern examples are like Killian Ang. I'm a big fan of their work. And yeah, the Chroma Circuit logo is not done. I think that it's not readable enough yet. It's a little bit too busy. This is kind of a placeholder capsule. I'm going to be, I'm actually be putting the Steam page up soon. You won't be able to download the game yet, but like, whoa, Roger Dean had a video game company in the 80s? Okay, I must interrupt everything and look this up now. I had no idea that he had a game company. Oh my gosh, look at that box art. What? Amiga game. So Pteropods, the 1987 shooting game with business simulation. Simple business simulation. Okay, interesting. Player must manage colonies of specialized industries to produce a pteropod of their own while fighting off enemy forces like a traditional shooting. Okay, interesting. That's thank you for letting me know. That's really interesting. The video game art of Roger Dean. Look at that. I see a bunch of Japanese stuff. There's something called Black Onyx. Um, yeah, look at that. I'm gonna post that in chat here. Because yeah, that's pretty neat. Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all.
So right now I'm trying to get a sense of flow in these tracks. The thing is that players are going to be painting the track. That's one of the key mechanics here. So, you know, there's going to be paint streaks going along the track. And so I can't do anything on the track that looks like paint streaks or will be confusing to players. So what I can do is things like, you know, striped banding, for example. So, you know, I can... You know, something that's like, you know, horizontal striping. And I can't make it too contrasty or we might have problems with like flickering and like sort of I don't want to induce like any kind of seizures or anything. I definitely want it to be like a, you know, a very sensory stimulating experience. So, but I need to balance subtlety with it if it's going to interfere with mechanics. So I'm just kind of blocking in these lines to get a sense of maybe like the spacing of these subtle, you know, webby horizontal lines. And all of this stuff I think I can just do with a texture. Like I'm not going to be using any like really fancy Houdini stuff with it or anything like that. I've been what I was talking about last time is doing like a zoetrope effect where each one of these ribs is a slightly different version of the texture, such that if it, you know, if you were to animate it, it would look like a motion graphic. But because you're driving on it fast enough, your brain is mixing them. I think there's a lot of really, I haven't actually seen a racing game do that, and it'd be sort of like those advertisements on the subways. But yeah, I mean, what's going to be happening is like, you know, having, here, let me get a new color here. Okay, this streak here is a streak that has been left by another player. And this is player green. Player green is painting over player yellow. And when player green goes around the track, they can boost on the green trail that they just left. And so that way it's like you're laying stuff. Yeah, flipbook effect, exactly. In fact, I've actually worked with flipbook textures in the engine already and found a way to make them fairly performant. So I could actually have flipbook textures where rather than relying on the speed of the car going over the track, you're just literally just seeing the animation on the track. The only thing is again, like I have to balance, if it's too distracting, it's going to be hard to play the game. And so it's just going to take a lot of experimentation. I'm absolutely going to need like play testers to help, like, you know, to help find that balance, because, you know, when, like, if I were to play it a lot, I could get used to it, and that's that's no good when, you know, trying to design something for new people. So anyways, so yeah, that's some of the The track paint stuff, I guess I'll just leave the paint here. I'm gonna delete this archived one. So yeah, a track pattern like this is interesting. You could have, each one of these. Let me go back to my. Each one of these circles could be like a mini boost. They could also maybe be like a paint pickup of some kind. I'm still kind of deciding. Circles are definitely a big kind of recurring motif in this game. I'm gonna have a lot of these entities that are like thousands, even millions of these little like flat circles that all together create these shapes. And a lot of them will look like coral and like fractal kind of shapes, and it's part of the lore of the world and everything that you're racing through. Which, yes, this world has lore. It is not necessary to play the game. You don't need to know all the lore, but it certainly keeps me invested. And invested I'll have to be, because this will be a long project. I can only afford to grow the team so big. As far as I know, unless it does really well in early access, in which case I could get a lot more ambitious with it. The plan is to, roll out a demo, get the demo, make sure that the proof of concept is good, get some unbiased people to play test it, then go into alpha testing, hopefully by late this year. Just have, the first track at least. And basically early access will allow people to pre-purchase the game, which will help to fund the game and also give me confidence as to how much I can really put into it. So definitely doing kind of an open development thing. I'm very interested in people's contributions. I'm running this stream so I can get ideas from people and get feedback and kind of build up a bit of a buzz. I'm really not going to have a lot of time to be on social media. That's during this time. So the people who build up these massive followings, they often spend 3 hours a day on social media, and I am not going to have that time. But I'd rather stream and interact with people more directly while making this. Seems a lot more fun. Thinking about how I might make something like this in Houdini. These types of sheets, I don't know how well Houdini handles NURBS, because this looks like NURBS stuff. These kind of really biomorphic. I want them to be kind of some kind of fake translucency, with that stipple effect that I was talking about. I'm not sure how. I can't immediately think about how I would model these. I mean, it looks like it's a backbone curve, and you've got other curves, and you would need to somehow interpolate between one curve and another to get this kind of sheet. That is something that I may end up just, at least certainly for this first track, hand modeling. Game Shark Blue says they feel like plant stalks. Totally so. Asparagus. I love it. That sounds like a really interesting. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna draw asparagus here.
Be right back. I want to test something on my other computer.
All right. I hope your audio is going okay, Essentia. I'd like to hear from you. All right. Yep, I had to draw an asparagus. You happy? Basking it. Ah, no luck with audio. Oh man, that sucks. You may want to try restarting Discord. I have found that to help, and also I found unplugging and replugging in my audio device if you're not on Bluetooth has helped me before. But yeah, these plant stocks I am probably going to make manually for the time being. This is something where I want to kind of build, I want to procedurally do what I would call pseudo fractals, as in like, geometry and then, build geometry on that and then geometry on that. So a little bit like what you see on the manobulb, only with really simple shapes. And so this is one of the things that I intend to do for, like along the track. So you can see, it's following a pattern, and the cool thing about it is, I can have this adapt with the track. So if I did this procedurally, I would literally be able to play test this and have people test it out. And if they go, oh man, like this turn is just too hard. I keep crashing into the wall, and everyone's telling me this turn's too hard. And I could just go in to the level and like smooth out the turn, and all the stuff I'm drawing right now will follow the new curve, and I don't have to re-add every single thing again. And the thing is that like I don't mind manually moving stuff around. It wouldn't be that hard, right? But the thing is that think about the scale for maybe one track or even two tracks. It's probably faster to just move everything around, maybe even three, but like six, which is what I'd like to launch with at least. That's it's like if you make a graph of like time spent. The way, if I just did it manually, then I'm not spending very much time in the if this is I'm not spending very much time in the beginning, but it's going to stay like my productivity is going to be around flat, whereas I could put a lot of time in now, and then productivity will go way up by investing here. It's going to look like not a lot is happening on the game. I'm going to release the Steam page, and months are going to go by, and like there's not going to be a lot of there's not going to be a lot of new screenshots, and then all of a sudden, like boom, you'll have stuff that looks like this, and very very neat looking things. That's the current plan. We shall see how it works. Yeah, I'm still in trial mode. So I want this to be like this big kind of like a very large, gentle kind of mound that has these little, it would be very cool if these, looks like some kind of sound emitters. Maybe they have these like little, concave, like kind of holes here. Still deciding. They were initially going to be convex, but yep, tiled normal maps. Adiagus. Do you work in games, Adiagus? You seem to know some things about this pipeline. Sweet. So what do you do in games? Also, we have a bunch of game dev people in the Synthara Discord. It's linked on the right there. Audio is distorted on Discord in this PC. Oh, so you're an environment artist? Sweet. Yeah, that's a genre that I don't know a whole lot about. Team Shark Lucis, yeah, Kart Racer through such a mathematic prism is unique visually, I'll say. Yes, I think it is too. I really wanted to find, you know, I really wanted to find a game that had this kind of a look, and you have a lot of the dark, gritty cyberpunk racers, and you have a lot of the realistic racers that are like Forza and that kind of thing. There's a lot of stuff that's like trying to be very real world, and then when they do deviate from real world or like cyberpunk kind of looks, it's usually like super kidsy. And I would put Mario Kart, Mario Kart's definitely more kidsy than my game is. I like to think that my game is as visually fun as Mario Kart is, as like lively and like vibrant. But I definitely, I really want this to be a game that is like, it looks like it was made for adults, but kids are welcome, rather than it's made for kids, but adults are welcome, if that makes sense. Um, Oh, nice! 27 years of experience. I'm looking at Adiagas. 27 years on, and that's mostly in like level design. Started on PS1. Nice! That's awesome. Yeah, that is like true veteran status in this industry. It's super cool. We just brought on a consultant who is also working. I think he worked on the PS1. As well, and he has I think 26 years on and off in games, not solid in games, and so he's going to be kind of a consultant to make sure that like our architecture is sound, and he can't work full time on the game, but I'm super happy to have someone with that much experience because this kind of development is scary because you can have something that seems like it's working great, and then months down in production, you realize that as soon as you start adding more people or you do something, you add something, and then all of a sudden it's very unperformant. And so it's like I really want people who are used to optimizing for old consoles to like take a look at this, take a look at the code base and make sure everything's on the level. Because yeah, it's. I really care a lot about performance. My art style is very complex, and I know I could easily make this bloated game that takes up like 20 gigabytes on disk. And because it's a multiplayer game, it's super important to be able to have as many people able to play it as possible. And so, yeah. So I'm going with this kind of tensile look here. I really like the sound stages at festivals, especially like kind of like the kind of psytrance music festivals. They have some amazing like tensile architecture that it's easy to it's lightweight. It blocks the sun, it blocks the rain, but it can be easily put up and taken down. So it only has to be up for like a week or so. But the result of that effort is these like very low poly, but very very low poly, but like a lot of visual bang for the structural buck, so to speak. Game Shark Blue says, I feel like Star Wars Pod Racers has a similar aesthetic in what you're conveying. A little bit. I actually played Star Wars Pod Racers. That was one of my like earliest games I played actually. And so yeah, I definitely have some nostalgic feels for it. My game is more colorful and less, realistic than Star Wars Pod Racer. Star Wars Pod Racer was hard. Like that was a mean game. Like I think like the way my game is working is that the strategy and a lot of the skill is about the paint and painting the track and going over the paint. A lot of Star Wars Pod Racer was not very forgiving. It was like you ran into a wall, you're half dead, like at least. Um, and here, instead of having a lot of hard walls along the tracks, what I'm having are these what I call soft walls. So like over here, I'm going to have a barrier probably right here that will prevent the players from going into all of this noise. But before that barrier, I have the equivalent of off-roading. It's like dirt or water. Yeah. And so, players, rather than immediately hitting a hard thing, they just slow down. And if they're really bad, or let's just say new to the game, they probably will still hit the wall, but they're not going to have that kind of like sense of damage. But yeah, Star Wars.
Can you hear me now?
Yes! Yay! Hello.
Okay. I cracked the code.
Yay! Yay!
Listening to what I've been listening to what you've been saying. I just have not been able to say anything and have you hear me.
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad you're up to speed. And so, yeah, this is.
So you're just talking about staying on the track or hitting the walls. Since you seem to have the physics working, can you just make it to where? Because one of the things you can do with physics is you can make it so that you respond to the ground that you're over. Like when you're over different areas, you can cause the physics to maybe slow you down or redirect you or do something.
Absolutely. Yep.
So you could make it so that if you get off the side, it's like dirt, and you just kind of like grind to a halt.
Yep. That's exactly what we're doing. We're using like so. Yeah, that is what we're doing. There's a couple different ways to do it. You can have a hidden map, like an alpha map, where the more white it is, the slower you go, for example. And that's just like one of the maps in the channel. I'll probably have a collision box, like a shallow one, if it's a raised. Like if it's like raised dirt, like imagine a flower bed that you go into, that will probably have a collision on it, and that collider will say, if you're on the collider, you'll slow down. So there's a couple different ways of doing it, and it will be situational.
Yeah, I suppose you could make it so that you have different types of terrain, and they all do the same thing, but the terrain looks different. So you only have to develop one type of physics, but you could just like map different kind of visual stuff on it.
Yeah. And going into chat here,
just don't use small animals.
Yeah. Small animals technically exist in this world, but they are quite rare. So Game Shark Blue says it was really hard, meant more its alien worlds in nature. They're referring to Star Wars Pod Racer, which essentially this is one of the first games I played as a kid. Yeah, that game. Here's the thing with that game. It was very dark in a lot of ways. Like not always, but there are a lot of aspects of that game where you couldn't see very well, and maybe it was just my crappy TV I was playing on. But this is a complaint that I have with a lot of racers, is that they make things so dark that part of the game or the meta game is just trying to see where you're going. And I definitely want to avoid that in this game. This is going to be a higher key, brighter palette, brighter color kind of thing. I want the game to be focused on navigating the track, but not trying to interpret the track. I enjoy playing distance. I've been slowly kind of working my way through distance, and I have this little mini rant I could go on about that game because there's this one part of distance where they introduce a very difficult mechanic. It's one of the trickiest mechanics, and during that game, in the part of the story is that the power's turned off in the world. So here you're trying to learn to do this very difficult maneuver, and you can't see. It's like it's very, very dark, and like I really want to avoid that kind of feeling like you're fighting the environment or you're fighting the game in that way. Audiogus says, could be neat. The closer you are to the center line, the faster you go and the brighter things render. Oh, that is an interesting idea. I hadn't thought of like the idea of like it rendering. I'm doing some funky things with rendering and brightness with the Nova Boost, which is like a special one-time boost you can use. As for center of the track, here's the thing with the center of the track is that people are painting. So you see this car here. Let me draw over the car so you can see a little better. So people are painting the track with their own color, and as they go over the track the next time, they get a boost on their paint. So they're making their own boost pads. The thing is that the center line will probably be contested because you can paint over other people's paint. You can basically cover over their boost, but if you do that, you're not boosting. So there's an interesting decision. We're constantly making this decision. Do I lay down something for future me, or do I deny someone else their boost? And, there's different, play strategy styles, and that's kind of the core mechanic of this game. The thing with the center line is it'll probably be contested. If someone wanted to get kind of one valid strategy, or at least I'd like to see this be how it plays out, is that if someone actually hugs this wall and decides to paints over here, this is less contested. This is something that, if you're all the way over here, your racing line is longer. And if you're all the way over here, you have a greater chance of running into the wall or running off-road into the flower beds. And so if you think you're good enough, you can deviate, go along this wall, and nobody else is probably going to try to paint over you. So next time, you have a better chance of getting it. And so, does that sound like a sound way that would probably play out?
Yeah, it sounds like, you'd have the higher skilled players would be good enough of not falling off the track that they would develop their own preferred lines.
Right. And then you have areas too that are like shortcuts, and the shortcuts are so narrow that they really only comfortably, let me see if I can find one here. They only comfortably allow for like one person to mark it. I think this is the beginning of a shortcut. No, that's not a shortcut. That's something else. Actually, I'm gonna start drawing a new scene. I'm tired of working on this scene. Yeah, absolutely. This needs to be play tested. We already have local multiplayer working, which is great. The thing is that it's really, the dynamics are really going to play out when you have like 6 people at a time. So getting, Steamworks integration where you've got multiplayer is definitely, it definitely needs to happen, and sooner rather than later, so that we can really test like what do people actually do and adapt the track to fit that.
Yeah, do you have where the track varies enough to where, it like necks down to where the players have to, kind of like get a single line, and, it kind of forces them into, kind of establishing polling places, or other places where it's so wide that it's just like free for all?
Yes, it does. It's a good question. Yeah, the track you'll have open areas and kind of closed areas. The open areas, you need to have some nice open areas to let people use their special boosts. because if you're using, anyone who's played Mario Kart knows that if you use a golden mushroom on a track with lots of turns, you're kind of dooming yourself to failure. So you want to wait until you have this nice open flat area to use your mega boost. So yeah, this track in particular doesn't have as much variation. It's got some, but I'm trying to make this relatively. This is supposed to be kind of like, one of the early noob tracks to just get used to things. I have some crazy ideas for. I have this one that I've already made this track. It's got these the track splits into two, and then you have these areas where. So let me. You have these segments, and each one of these is a ramp. So you can see it's ramping up, and so what's going to happen is that people are going to want to paint where there's not already other paint. And so you're going to have probably half the people are going on this side, and the other half of people are going on this side, and they're going to collide in the air at some point. It's going to be kind of funny. You're kind of just trying to get lucky that whoever's coming from this side and whoever's coming from this side, they don't crash here. And then, they jump up the ramp and then get to the other side and keep painting. And if they fall, there's a simple mechanic that just takes a second and then puts you back on the track. And it's not so much that you get frustrated, but you do lose momentum. So, there's going to be a snake pit where, it's not going to be a snake pit, but, some kind of a pit down here that you're going to fall into if you run into somebody else. I think it would be hilarious. But...
Are you thinking about making it where the track splits apart into different segments that they're all kind of parallel, even though they're maybe not like lined up with each other, but then you have different environments for each one of the paths, and then that way when you're going around the track, you could take like a different sub route?
Good question. So here's the thing with that. As a maximalist, my first answer is yes, let's do lots of different things. The problem is that if you split people up too much, you make it hard for them to interact with one another. So like in Mario Kart, what makes the game fun is that they keep the pack tightly together. They, if you're way behind, they have ways of catching you up with the pack. If you're way ahead, they don't give you as much good stuff. And if you start splitting up the track too much, like this is fine. But if you start splitting up the track too much, then all of a sudden you start to feel like you're racing alone. And then you can just claim one of these for your paint path, and you just keep doing the same thing all the time. So yeah.
That's actually what I was thinking, is that people, paths wouldn't be split apart for very long, but since this seems to be all about how you lay down paint when you keep doing laps, that you could develop your own kind of strategy of how you have your own path that you're trying to develop, but then other people would find out what you're doing and then might go take advantage of it. So you get these kind of subplots going on in terms of people's strategy about how to race around the track.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the kind of dynamics that I would like to explore, because exactly, you can have like a secret shortcut, which I have it somewhere. Where's my secret shortcut? There's an entrance to it. I think it's after the tunnel. After the tunnel, it's like right. I think it's here. I didn't do a very good job of. There's a shortcut that's just like that. Is that other players, they would be able to see. So here's a funny thing: is you don't have to paint. It's not like you have a continuous paint stream going behind your car. You have to get paint pickups, and it's a kind of bar that loads over time. And
do you run out of paint?
Yes, when you run out, you either have to wait for it to recharge. So there's like a bar, And we have a nifty UI. Nuisance, who was on chat here and is now in text chat, has been doing some nifty passes on the UI right now, where you've got a bar on here, or somewhere like right around the car, that is showing you how much paint you have. So as you paint, the bar goes down. When you're not painting, it slowly goes up. But there's certain pickups that spawn in the level that let you recharge your bar all the way. Let's see. Game Shark Blue says, would you have arena zones that then split into tracks that recurve back into themselves? Yeah. I would. So the initial concept for this was a lot more arena-like. Recurve back into themselves. The answer to that is kind of. You will have splitting and converging again, but it's not full-on arena because there's still a directionality. When I think of arena, I think it's like, anyone can go anywhere and still like accomplish the objectives of the game. I thought about like Burnout Paradise and like the way they kind of have this pseudo open world racing thing. But for one thing, from a performance standpoint, that's a lot of content to put into like one level, and you have to worry more about, what you're loading. And like, I feel like sticking to regular tracks right now is a smarter idea, given at least my level of experience. Also, Game Shark Blue, you mentioned twisted metal like concept. I've been meaning to check that out actually. What's cool actually is that the consultant developer that we're working with worked on Twisted Metal 3 and 4 for the PlayStation, and they were the like senior developer on that. And so that's super cool. I've been meaning to check it out so I can like see what that's all about. So yeah. Is a biomorphic kind of on-ramp. This is something that I'm probably not going to do procedurally because I'm only going to have a few of these. I'm still kind of in the back of my mind trying to think about what I would try to automate, what I would do by hand, and the stuff in black right now is going to be the stuff by hand. Game Shark Blue asks, would you have arena zones that then split into tracks? Oh wait, I already read that. Never mind.
Yeah, it would seem like you would want basically a circular, overall you would want a circular track that, it's kind of only one way to go around it, except you could have little separate subpaths, but they still end up connecting, they split apart and come back together again.
Exactly. Yep. That's exactly it. It would be fun to have like an arena battle mode as like a side thing, but that's only if the game does well, like, in early access. And if it sells a lot, there's always DLC. What I love about the modern way of doing games is that it's a much more modular approach, is that I can afford to price the base game low, but if people respond well to it, I can add new arenas or tracks, so yeah, that's the plan there.
Just had an idea, if you had the little subpath, little subtracks, you could do things where, the different versions of the game, you could just kind of swap out those little subpaths. And so you could, put, you could change the content up that way without having to affect the whole game.
That would be awesome. And if I use Houdini, that will make that a lot easier. What I might do just to make sure that you don't get procedural weirdness is to generate, 3 or 5 variations of each track and then give people a random one. when they play.
You could have the unknown zone where you go down one track and you just don't know what you're gonna get.
That would be awesome. Unfortunately, the workflow I'm planning to use does not allow for runtime. So one of the limitations of Houdini is that, as far as I'm aware, like the geometry is largely baked. As you start, as the player starts the level. Apparently,
yeah.
there are ways to bring data out of it and open it up to blueprints where you can make it, real time. But I have not tried that yet, and I don't know, because in theory you could have a table of all the different like vectors, like all the different values of the control points of the base spline of the road, and you can move these values up and down to kind of wiggle the road, back and forth. And so in theory, you could just put some kind of, a random seed in here, and you can kind of get it to do different things. The thing is that, oh boy, the danger with that is that there's going to be some people are going to get crap luck where they get something that's just like really hard, and it just happens to be that it's all up arrows in one direction somewhere, and you get some really weird, hard to do thing. So this, I kind of want to avoid randomization until the game is out, and then kind of go from there.
That's what I was thinking, is suggesting you just do it to one subpass. So if you don't want to take the risk,
right,
just stay away from that place. But if you want to like try something different, you have a place you could do that.
Yeah, you're basically like describing like a push your luck kind of mechanic.
That's why I meant the unknown zone. It's like, what's gonna happen?
Yeah, totally.
Could get good luck, could get bad luck.
Yeah, every time you go on it, it's different. Yeah, I love it.
But you're probably right, though. When you said baking, I think baking is your friend, because you want to keep the game from getting too out of hand. By not baking.
There is enough to worry about. I'll tell you that. It's I know it's possible. I know the workflow of doing it. But I know that there's also unknown unknowns lurking around the corner, and so I need to budget my time to be able to deal with unexpected problems. And so trying not to bite off more than I could chew is going to be like super important.
Yeah.
And luckily I have other people who know this process better than me, who can let me know when I'm going off the rails with an idea when it comes to these track designs. And so that definitely makes me feel a little more secure. Game Shark Blue asks, are you developing any type of lore for your racers the way F-Zero has? Difficult question to answer. The answer right now is no. There is a lot of lore around the track itself, because the track is actually, in a sense, sentient. So there is a story mode, and you can choose from different cars, but there are no characters, charismatic, characters that you just have. It's like distance. You have a car, oh, Viv Burr, hello. Nice to have you in here. Glad you finally caught me. I'll be doing more of this. So I need to make a poll for like ideal times to stream for people who want to catch this. Anyways, yeah, back to the lore thing. There is lore. There's actually a good bit of lore in the world itself, but I want it to be something that players encounter as they go and as they unlock things in the single player mode. And I do not want to info dump people. I know a lot of indie games will like they will they will dump a lot of stuff right in the beginning, and it becomes kind of alienating. And I want people to just there's actually a hub world. So I don't know if anybody's been doing racing games since way back. One of my actually very first, but my very first racing game was Diddy Kong Racing. Diddy Kong Racing had this hub world that was like they had a story mode, and you unlocked tracks in the story mode, and yeah, basically the hub world was this place where you could try out new techniques, and you could poke around and explore and look for things, and all the entrances to all the tracks were in this hub world. So it's a nice chill place. It's also going to double as the lobby for multiplayer. It's a place where you can swap out your vehicle and all that, and go. And there's lore around what the hub world is and why it looks the way it does. And I don't want to do any spoilers. So the entity behind the track is a former human. I'll say that much. And to answer Audiogus' question, are the cars sentient? That is actually a bit up in the air. So initially, I was thinking it'd be interesting if they were actually remote-controlled vehicles that humans were racing, and they're specifically racing them in order to try to get in touch with the track itself, because the track is becoming a problem in this world. It is consuming resources in the city, and basically racers are trying to the track seems to want something, and it ostensibly maybe it just wants to be entertained by the racing going on it, but people are racing on it to try to figure out like what it's doing there, and try to get it to maybe stop encroaching on like key real estate, and so in the original lore, the racers are humans, but they are remote controlling the racers. Game Shark Blue says, it feels so enjoyable, biological. I could comprehend it as the racers being almost blood cells in the world itself. Yes, very much. I really love the analogy of like cities as organisms, and like kind of finding that line in between. I think that's like it's great. I'm really glad that you made that connection. Audioga says, oh, I love Revolt. I don't know what Revolt is. Vibver says, we have been connected and following your art since conceptart.org days on most other platforms. First time seeing you on Twitch. Oh yes, I know your name. Yeah, I thought that might have been you from your username. Super cool. I'm glad we finally got to connect. Boy, those are the days. That was when I first discovered all this stuff, and before I was, even a student. Oh, RC card game. Gotcha. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Oh, I'm checking out your art station, and Vivas, you've got some neat stuff here. I'm really digging this vehicle. Just taking a bit of a break here. Let's see, is that showing up in my chat? Yes. Okay. Cool. Very cool. Oh, so yeah, so you're very multifaceted. You're doing like comic art. Oh, this is neat. This Oriental Temple game environment. Yeah, this is my jam. Very cool. Yeah, you've been busy. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna favorite this vehicle, add it to my hard surface collection here. Very cool. We can keep tabs on what you're up to. Yeah, I'm glad we got to cross paths again. Um, okay, back to work here. Oh man, those concept art days. I still remember doing the like environment of the week. That was like very useful for my growth as an artist because it gave me deadlines and it gave me like competition. I was pretty competitive back then. I think I'm less so now, but it really helped me push myself. Conceptart.org, they like um that was definitely a community that was like, tough love. Like the social environment in my art school at the time was pretty chill, so I went to concept art to like really feel like I was like being pushed. Oh, Eccentric, guess what? The I found out something new today, which is that Roger Dean had a video game studio back in the 80s. Yeah.
That's interesting. I have never seen anything other than just 2D art coming out of him.
Yeah, no, totally. Like, I mean, like, they
His
had
art is very three-dimensional, but it's he's never I've never seen anything like video game.
Oh yeah, like he had a studio called Psygnosis, Psygnosis, and he had a 1984 role-playing game called The Black Onyx, and something called Barbarian, and there's this thing called Pteropods. Here, I'll link it into chat.
You should show a video of it, or rather, you should show some art of it in a tab.
Yeah, I would have to switch, but I could. Yeah. Hello, by the way.
Hello.
So yes, this is, as you can see on the stream, I have Discord integration now, so we can see the people in the chat.
One thing Roger Dean did do is he did a lot of set design, so he had quite a few. I guess I forgot the sculptural stuff. I guess part of it is that it wasn't really a lot of tools and platforms to do video, like 3D art, model-based art back then.
Yeah, I think it was mostly text-based games, because this is like the mid-'80s or like late '80s.
Yeah, because that was the computers were still, evolving at that point. But say back in the 70s, he had a lot of the sets that he did for different rock bands. And so it seems like he's definitely been thinking in terms of what would definitely turn into a video game. So I can believe that he did that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's super respectable. Like I like that, he branched out into different mediums like that, and like, tried new stuff that was, at the time cutting edge. I admire his career in that sense, especially now that I know that he had such a studio that put out multiple titles. And honestly, like any game studio that puts out more than one title, I consider like a success. If you can make enough money on the first game to put out the second, you're like, you did something right.
Totally makes sense. It's they're not easy. So if you've still got juice left in you to make the second one, then you're doing pretty well.
I mean, technically, yeah, because like you could make a web page that has the word "start" on it, and then you technically made a video game. So if you made a second one, then that's commercially successful, then that's definitely a good benchmark, I'd say.
Is the big giant red button that does nothing technically?
Yeah, you just keep clicking on start.
Yeah, but then you have a counter next to it that ticks up, and all of a sudden you make Cookie Clicker.
Oh gosh, don't mention that game.
It reloads the page, and you can look down at the bottom. It says this page has been accessed X number of times.
And you are now part of that. Thank you, I guess.
Yeah, Essential was telling me about the big red button that doesn't work, which apparently was like what year around was that whole thing?
Oh,
It was
that
like,
would have been probably about 93.
oh gosh, yeah.
It was like when there were. It was what happened when they first had graphical web browsers. You know, nobody was making any content for the browsers because there were no browsers. So that was like one of the very, very first things people, came up with. They were
So-
exploring the things that were built into HTML.
Oh yeah.
Like, it was hover over and click and the really basic commands.
Right.
Which was, oh my God, look at what I can do, but compared to now, it seems like nothing.
Well, it's like, oh, wait a minute, hang on, I can hide puzzles in this or something. Like like the early Flash escape room type things.
True. Yeah, there was the very first game I ever played was Zork. And,
oh yeah.
Evidently Zork was not the first game, but it was maybe like the second game. And it was all ASCII based. And you couldn't really do very much other than ASCII art for quite a while. And so they got pretty creative with, making up stuff with that. But, once the things like the airplane, flying around type games happened, it was just, a whole nother world after that. And it's just, you had to have a really, really good computer to be able to run on any of those things. And nice thing about the ASCII games, any computer could run them.
Yeah, that's cool.
But
What was that game, Arcanister? You were talking about a game called The Button, and it was like this weird meta game on Reddit where it's like once you press the button once, you would never press it again.
Yeah, r/the button. Yeah, this was one of their April Fool's social experiment things. And it was a really neat idea that they did, I think, in like, oh God, what was it, like 2016? Might have been 18. It was quite a few years into the before times. But like, it was a really cool idea in that every single account, there was a button on a subreddit called r/the button, and you could click it once, and then your account would be done playing the button. And what happened was they put a timer next to it that ticked down from 60 seconds, and every time anyone in the world pushed the button, it got reset to 60 seconds. And what wound up happening is that like you could only click the button if you had an account that was at least like 3 years old or something, so people couldn't spam accounts. And and nobody knew quite what happened when it would hit 0, because everyone kept clicking the button, but you can only click the button once. And what would happen is that as the timer ticked down from 60 seconds to 50 to 40 to 30, every time it went down another 10 seconds, or I think it was 6 seconds, it would change color. So first it was like, I think it was like purple, and then it was like green, then blue, as it goes through different colors as it ticks down further and further. And if you clicked on the button when it had a certain color on it, then before it reset to 60, it would assign you that color. And then you could talk on a separate subreddit was about the button, and you had that flare on you, so everyone could see, oh, you were able to push the button when it was just at 30 seconds, or you were somehow able to push the button when it was like in like the last 10 seconds. And it was a really fascinating kind of a social experiment to see what they could do on it. Turns out when I went up to 0, it was just like the end. Thank you for playing. Which, I mean, no one was expecting much, but it was a really neat idea.
Yeah, it sounds like the developers were testing server-side functionality out, because you can't do that with cookies or anything else. It all has to happen with the accounts. You know, each account has to have some kind of memory dedicated to keeping track of all this stuff, and so they might have been doing that actually. Just they were like using everybody as test subjects to check their code out.
Yeah,
Maybe.
possibly. I think it was a good chunk of testing from a social perspective.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting experiment. There was that other one, I forgot what exactly it was called, but the one where people were causing squares to appear, and they were trying to color the screen with different colored squares, and it was kind of showing how people actually behave, you know, as groups. You know, it was kind of it's an experiment in group behavior.
Yeah. So that was actually the one they did the next year. That was called r/place.
Okay. Yeah.
And in fact, I can actually drop a link to that in Discord, and if Kristen feels like she can share it. But like, you can just do a search for r/place, just on any search engine, and you'll immediately be granted with a picture of the final result. But it's an absolutely ridiculous 4,000 by 4,000 pixel image. I think it was several 100,000 actually, if I remember correctly.
It was an interesting thing to kind of like, you know, analyze and figure out like what is really going on with all this stuff, and it was fun for the people who didn't even participate in it. Just look at what came, you know, what the result was, and it was still interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of subcommunities made a bunch of like made a bunch of logos in it.
Yeah, people are
it was nuts.
Different types of goals were in play.
For sure. Someone managed to get a connection lost. Please wait, attempt to reestablish error from Minecraft in the upper left-hand corner.
Key Trade is here in chat. Hello. Good to have you in here. Yeah, he's a good friend of mine, and is asking, what am I looking at here? You're looking at a track storyboard. So what I did is I gray boxed in I gray boxed in this, like, you know, test track, super basic geometry, and I screenshotted all the camera views, and now I'm going in and I am like basically drawing over it to come up with like different ways to skin it. So yeah, that's I'm thinking about what I can do procedurally. Oh yay, Houston's is back in chat. So yeah, I'm basically just doing some concept art for the racing game. And if you'd like to join the voice chat, you can hop into the Synthara Discord server as well, if it's easier. But yeah, so I'm kind of figuring out, I'm trying to think about what I can do in Houdini for this track, if I, and you know, what's going to be like a traditional mesh, and just kind of getting a sense of like the shape language I want for this first track. I hope you've been well. Been pretty happy with the stream music. He says this trackboard looks Very cool. Can't hop on chat right now. Been well. Yes, let's catch up soon. I've been wondering how you've been doing. I know you've been super busy lately, but it would be really nice to catch up. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, this is I find that just like working, you know, with 3D and then drawing over the 3D is just a really nice way to work. It's a good way to not get too caught up in the details and like too early on. And what I'm going to end up doing is just wiping all of this and then making a new layer and just oh yeah, here's some of the. I was doing sort of like figuring out what I wanted to do in Houdini in red. And so, you know, lots of these, like I'm trying to get this cobwebby connector kind of stuff where in real time I can move assets around the viewport. So that's some of the stuff I've been figuring out. This is another tunnel aesthetic I like. But what I'm just going to keep doing is as a form of iteration. In fact, I can just do it right now. I'm just going to start over again, and without seeing any of the other stuff, just think about new stuff and then just kind of mix and match. I'm really trying to think of like the user story here, or like, you know, the player, like what psychologically it's like you're going, like for example, you're going through this tunnel and then you're out of the tunnel and you're boom, wide open air. And I had been thinking I might make them go out into a forest at the end of the tunnel, but psychologically I think it's a more interesting punch to go from inside tunnel to like full vista, like convex kind of road. So like that kind of thing is what I'm figuring out right now. Because I spent a lot of time trying to develop tracks just like in 3D and even in VR, it was hard to get a sense of what the player would actually see until like being in the game engine. And sometimes something would look really cool from bird's eye view or like from map view, and then I go into and play it and it's like it's not good. So yeah, this is the current approach that's been working pretty well. And yeah, I found that like spacing thumbnails so that you can extend over the frame has been like is a really useful way to work. So yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Hello.
Oh, finally.
Yeah. And
I am back.
Yay. So have you been how is your laptop doing? You're having problems.
Yeah, it's a bit more stable. It's a bit laggy sometimes, but yeah, like since I updated a bunch of drivers that was like supposed to be updated but was not, it's a bit better. But I will still probably have to like bring it to the repair shop at some point.
Oh man, sucks. Yeah,
Yeah, the experiment I did is working though, so I'm happy. I posted some progress on our Discord.
Oh, sweet. Oh, awesome.
If you're curious.
I am curious. Maybe, let's see. Oh! World Space. Okay, yeah, let me, So yeah, Nuisance is one of the developers on this game. Oh, sweet! Okay, this is internal stuff. I may show it later, but like, I promise you guys it's cool. Yeah, Nuisance is kind of our tech artist on the project right now. It's our a real particle art wizard kind of thing, and
I'm a weird animal, yeah.
and so yeah, they've been very helpful on the project, and so yeah, They're also working on their own VR experience. Should I call it a game at this point, or is it still an experience?
Yeah, it's more a gamified experience. It's kind of an alien as well. It's like I just have fun with Unreal, and hopefully some people will have fun as well. But it's not a game in the common sense, I guess, or like in the common idea of what people have of a game, I guess.
Yeah, if you guys want to follow their project, this is their inflow.
I have a very outdated website that I need to fix somewhere. Yeah, yeah, my old website.
Yeah,
Do not subscribe to the newsletter. Everything will change in a couple of months.
well, I mean that the point is they subscribe, and then you show them the new stuff when they subscribe. So, yeah, I mean that like getting people on your newsletter is never a bad thing.
Yeah, it's just like because the person who was like managing all this stuff is like basically doing their own thing now, so I would probably like change like all the domain, all the like mailing list and stuff. So I mean, I might be able to send a global email to be like, hey, like, no, you will receive like email from this address instead of this one. But yeah, hopefully I will be able to like maybe start the early access in a couple months. It's getting closer slowly.
Nice.
After 6 years.
Wow,
I mean, it's a
been that
passion
long?
project.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I've done it on the side. You know, I think like if I was full time on it, I could have done it in like a couple years. But yeah, it's harder to work on your passion project when you're like full time, like in the machine.
Yep. I hear it. Yeah, I am still I'm still trying to get some freelance done while I work on this game, and it's interesting. I'm just being very judicious about which projects I take on, and like not committing, too much on any one. There's a bunch of like, metaverse related stuff going on right now, and a lot of this stuff is kind of proof of concept. Like they want to get investor money, and so it's like smaller projects. So I think I can get by with like not letting it distract me too much. Hopefully. But yeah, this is definitely the primary focus right now. I'm trying to think about a really simple type of building that I could make in Houdini that's literally like just, it's like a spline, and you just take you take a sphere, you give it, a random radius, a slightly random radius, and you taper it. So you make it where it's smaller and smaller spheres as you go up the spline. So this is the origin point, and you're going up, and then you've got there's something that elongates each each of these, I call it beads, kind of. They're like bead rooms, and so they'll all have a slightly different shape, and you'll make these towers, and then I want to connect the towers with these connectors. So I can, if I do that, I can generate this whole kind of forest of these towers. I want it to be kind of like, and then they're like trees at the top, and so you've got these solar leaves. Man, I don't know how I ever drew before before the iPad. I just love being able to move stuff around. I recently posted a project from 2016 where I did a lot of this kind of brainstorm drawing, and it was all in like pencil on copy paper. And it's like, how did I do that? So yeah, I think I can this tree thing, I could probably just do like an L system. There are already like, tree generators in Houdini. And I'll probably just rip one of those for the tips, and then sweep the splines. I think I could make something that looks like a lot of this kind of stuff pretty quickly. And so it'd be really nice to be able to populate the middle ground. The interesting thing is that a lot of these city-like things, some of them were made for humans, but some of them are just the matter itself has a kind of a slow sentience. Imagine something that has a lot of complexity but not a lot of speed, and a lot of these buildings are like these kind of slow computing devices, and so I can have things that look like micro cities that are actually kind of close to the track. So it kind of plays with like this fractal scale in like a weird way. Like for example, a car might be about this big right here or here, but you've got this little thing that looks like a miniature version of the larger city that's out here. And I think that would be a really interesting kind of feature. And as I understand it, if the workflow that I've been studying works properly, it will actually be performant. We'll see. But see, maybe I can also do it so that I have ribbing along. The nice thing is once I get a system, a node system, let's say this large um, bead room thing here. Once I get something like that working, I can also make offshoots of it that do the same thing. I can very quickly get this kind of recursive behavior. Once I've made one iteration, you just have to kind of think in levels. So I can, because I really like the idea of these kind of vaulted trees. They look kind of almost like, Gothic arches or that kind of architecture, but they branch. And so I can get stuff, and where each one of these is slightly different. And the best part is that I can like tweak them in the game engine. So I'm super excited about that as a concept. I think that is. It's definitely going to slow down early development. And again, like I said earlier on the stream, I probably won't be able to get the levels out as quickly at first, for early access. But as time goes on, it'll break even. It's also good to have a goal-based aspect for learning something like that software. It's kind of do or die for me. Like I have to get this out, and my typical kind of my personality is to like always want to explore and play and drift, and I could just endlessly keep trying things. But if I think that sometimes I learn a little faster when I have a goal, and so we'll see how long it takes. This might be a little bit harder to generate because this juncture point, like this shape, has to transform into this shape. Like from a topology perspective, let me make my brush smaller. From a topology perspective, that's a little bit dicey because I've got to have the edge loop do something like this. And booleans are, yeah, this can absolutely be done, but it might be a little bit ambitious right now for. I'm trying to figure out like kind of where my current limits are in this stuff. So yeah, I mean this kind of thing, I can move it into the track here. The nice thing is that I can always, bring something that I made, from Houdini into 3ds Max and then tweak it manually and bring it in if I really need to. So like, if I want to add this special piece, I could do this with like traditional hard surface modeling. Let's see here. Dibver says, I remember some of your city artwork looking like it's straight out of the future, as if you were using a software that is a weird cross between ZBrush, Roboto, and Mandelbaum on crack. That's how the process feels sometimes. My typical process lately has been, it's been kind of a mess, because I just over time I've, so my hub software is 3ds Max, but I use various plugins in it and scripts that allow me to, do procedural or procedural-like things, and I put them together, artistically. And the thing is that the interoperability between those different tools is not often there. And so if I want to really hybridize it, I can't. It's also a mess because it's like every single creator of each tool had like a different design philosophy, and it's like having to learn a whole bunch of little tools in one. And my hope is that with the new process, I'll be making the tools in such a way that I have more control over it. I actually remember Roboto. Roboto was fun. It definitely. So my very first 3D software was Bryce. And actually, let me go to my website here because I have a piece of ancient history. One of my very. Let's see if I can find it here. So yeah, Bryce is like the landscape generating program. So I've been pretty into procedural like stuff since pretty early on. See if I can find. Here we go. I'm going to copy the image just so I did this back in 2008 in like Coral Painter. Well, I rendered it in Bryce, and then I used Coral Painter to like touch it up and add details. And the plants in the top left were generated in Xfrog. So Xfrog is like a fractal plant generator software, and I'm still kind of fond of that piece. I don't know, just a tangent there. You've messed around in Bryce, right, Essentia? I thought you had. I know you knew of it. Guess they're AFK.
Nope. Sorry, I was muted there.
Oh, no problem.
That explains it.
Yeah, I didn't want you to have to listen to my chewing.
Oh.
Yeah. Actually, there was a thing called Kai's Power Tools way back when, and a lot of people used to make rave flyers because it did really cool things, which you couldn't do any other way. And Kai Kraus was the guy who made that. So he had a lot of really genius guys in San Luis Obispo who formed this company, and they were the ones who eventually made Bryce. And it was like the only thing like it because it worked really well, but it did a lot of the same things that you could do that had leveraged off of Kai's Power Tools. Because they were very good under the hood developers. They knew how to do the the hard stuff that happens, the magic stuff, and you could make some really beautiful landscapes, and did oceans and skies really, really well. But it was one of the things that allowed you to build materials, and it was like one of the trailblazing programs, and it was just it was like a really fun program to use because he was like, look what I just made.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really liked it. I don't know whatever happened to them though.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to them after Bryce. Because Bryce closed down. I think Bryce stopped at around, I don't know, I want to say 2010. or something.
Yeah, they were going for a surprisingly long time, but
Whoa.
I think everything caught up with them, and they had made maybe enough money. They're just like, oh, this is too hard. We're gonna go and like, I don't know, go surfing or something.
I'm looking at the interface. Oh wait, this says design frac. Maybe this. I don't know if this was this Power Toys
Oh,
too.
they're Daz.
Oh really?
Yeah, well, Daz was, yeah, it was just, what they were doing is they were just basically reselling all their old stuff. And, they stopped, as amazing as what they made originally, they kind of slowed down. But that's what I'm saying. I think this stuff is hard enough. And there's so much competition now that I think they figured, we'll do something else. But I don't know what they ended up doing. They were just amazing when they were, at the beginning.
You need big enough, team. Like the teams are getting bigger and bigger to be able to like manage the software. So it does seem like the people who are like those people are now making plugins.
Yeah, well, you got something like, say, Unreal 5, and you're just like, whoa.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
But there's this huge number of people doing that, whereas the original people that made Bryce, there's like 3 of them or something. It was a very limited number of people that did all that.
The developer who's helping out with the project said that like a lot of his teams for like PlayStation games, they would be like 10 people. Like it used to, like back in the 90s, you'd have pretty small teams. It's like,
Oh yeah.
kind of surprising.
There was a point in time, if you were on Commodore or something, that you just needed one developer.
Crazy.
Well, you have less
Friction.
fracturing of the design process, because it's so hard to communicate some of the stuff. You have a bunch of stuff in your head, but how do you tell other people what you're thinking? So if it's just one guy that's got it all in his head and he's capable of doing that, you could move pretty quickly.
Especially you don't have to like comment your code as much if you're the only one looking at it.
No, you should comment your code anyway. Nobody does.
That's fine. I'll remember what this is like in 2 weeks.
Yeah, in 2 years when you come back and look at it, it's what was I doing?
And, yeah.
If you then comment your code, then you're gonna hate yourself.
As I've been learning stuff, I've been working on taking way better notes than just like really trying to record what I do. And I just make mini tutorials for myself with screenshots. And I assume that like at some point in time in the future, I'm gonna get hit on the head and not be able to remember how I did it. And it is. I think the time I've spent making the notes has served me in the time that they've saved me, having to relearn stuff.
I have seen you using your notes, and sometimes you just are like cursing yourself out for giving yourself bad notes.
That has happened. I'm not going to say it's a perfect system.
You take really good notes, though. I mean, you're really good at putting together how-to sheets, which I think has a huge benefit at some point. Because a lot of the stuff, I mean, it's so difficult and complicated that, unless you got good notes, I don't know how you'd ever go back and redo it, in the future. So, yeah, impressive note-taking.
Yeah, your interface is terrifying.
Yeah, a little bit. The thing is that let's see. Game Shark Blue says, I think in the indie scene, the small team devs are back in with the resurgence of demakes and low poly aesthetic coming back in. Can't wait to see PS2 quality. Hessimerd Triumph.
That certainly looks like a typo.
Yeah, return.
There we go.
All right, yeah. I think that's I like the small team. I definitely do want to be able to have other artists help me fill out these worlds. I think that a procedural workflow would help with that, because I can give other artists the nodes and they can iterate on them without it losing the original cohesion and look of the world. But right now it's like you know, even if I won the lottery or something and was able to like hire a much bigger team, I'm not convinced I would, because I think that like, you know, it's too difficult to manage. You kind of
Yeah,
have to
we
let
could
it.
hire some marketing people. We could hire some marketing-
That would be nice. We can get Twitch into the double digits.
We can get dozens, nay, several dozens of dozens. Several.
There are dozens of us, dozens.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I do really believe in like organic growth with this kind of a thing. I
remember seeing a thing that I was listening to a podcast about some Silicon Valley company thing, and one of the guys, they were saying that like one of the things that a lot of Silicon Valley companies will do is they'll often flex on each other based on the number of people they've hired.
like the less people you hire, like the more it's a flex.
Oh man, you'd think so, wouldn't you?
Oh really? It's the opposite.
It's the other way round.
Oh no.
Because they're idiots.
Has
all
anyone
of them.
like read the Mythical Man Month?
They basically, it's like one of those things where it's like, oh, well, actually, I'm in charge of a team of 57. Oh, yes? Well, I'm in charge of a team of 123. We've been staffing up a bit recently due to the recent investor round. Mwah.
When I was in college, one of the required readings in engineering was the Mythical Man Month.
Yeah, that's what I just mentioned. So,
They were trying to, clue everybody in on, how to optimize, projects basically.
I've heard this book a lot, but I've actually never actually heard the gist of it, other than like, don't expect software to take any specific amount of time because you'll be wrong.
Yeah, it's this idea that yeah.
Yeah, basically what the idea is there's an optimal number of people, and throwing more people at a project actually will slow you down in many cases, because it starts fracturing. It's like you have too many people trying to do things, and it becomes highly inefficient. So, but if you don't have enough people, then you don't get anything done. So there's this optimal number of people, but it depends a lot on the people. It's not just the number of them. It's complicated, but it's a kind of a heads up though. You can't just throw more people at something and make something go faster, because sometimes it works the opposite.
Yeah.
Especially at the prototype phase, where you need actually a lot of time to unwind your R&D and find the good ideas, So that's why people always are mad, because when I arrive on a new project, I'm like, okay, take your time, there is no rush. I know you want to push your product in 1 month, but just think about what your product is and what is the base architecture of it, and that now is the best time, to find the most optimal ideas that you can get before rolling out production and hiring a bunch of people.
Well,
I've been there.
You got to get the design requirements worked out.
Yeah.
Which sometimes it's kind of hard to do, because sometimes they're still not really able to be locked down, or something changes, where it just all your hard work of figuring things out at the beginning goes out the window, because something fundamental just happened that changed it.
Yeah.
It's very complicated sometimes. It's just the bottom line is just stay alert, keep working.
Yeah, I actually, when I was doing my escape rooms, I watched a lot of teams going through my rooms, and they all had different dynamics, except they eventually wound up breaking down into one of a handful of different archetypes. And the one universal thing I saw was that there was no teams that were greater than 4 people almost never existed. And indeed, 4-player teams were usually very, very rare. You'd have a team of 5 friends come in, and what you'd really have is a team of 2 and a team of 3. And
well, it's like Dunsbar. So he had a really interesting
experiment that he did is he had a soccer game where he had they had 3 teams playing each other all at the same time. And what it demonstrated was that if you get too many people, so he was trying to establish how many people should be on each team in order for the game to actually work the best. And you physically literally get in each other's way if you get too many people out there. But if you have too few people, then everybody gets too tired, you know. And then on the top of that, you've got this social dynamic where the only way you can win, because only one team can win, but you got 3 teams, is that you're constantly shifting between like making friends and being a traitor.
Right, because you've got the 3 body problem.
Yeah, because you're trying not to let the other 2 guys get ahead, so you have to kind of sabotage one of them, you know, but still be friends with them, and it gets kind of crazy.
Yeah, no, I can very easily see that. I'm working on some physical games for a festival that we're hopefully going to be putting on in a couple of months. And one of them is basically 4 or 6 player air hockey, in which and 2v2 skee ball. And I could very easily see one of the situations in which you just have people that are allying and going against each other in a regular basis that just makes it really emotionally tiring.
Yeah, there are fundamental limits that are built into everything. The one thing about doing, say, a development project where everybody's trying to win, though, is that at the base, everybody has to be cooperating. The goal of everyone has to be, they need to be trying to succeed at making something work. And so if that's what drives each individual, then things tend to work themselves out.
It's not always the case.
It's when you have a competitive environment where you're trying to like winner take all, then things break down real fast. But yeah, like you're saying though, in a workplace, it doesn't always work out like that, because you have all sorts of individual agendas. But that's because everybody has different goals. If they had one goal, then things might go better.
Yeah, I wanted to bounce on that and actually ask Stevenson, like, based on his experience, like witnessing like countless teams, like I've seen like in a lot of startups who I worked with, there is always like archetypes, and there is always one that scares me. It's like the leader versus the thinker, and there is no like good hierarchy. But like you will have like always one guy that is very good at like pushing things forward and like motivating everybody, but has no idea what's going on. And there is the guy who is like completely the opposite, but he's just like having the overview and having the ideas, but like nobody is listening to him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you've got a lot of thoughts on this from all the escape room stuff.
Oh my, yes. So what I think is interesting is that like there are, and to be sure, all the information I'm about to give is entirely contained within escape rooms specifically, and so I would hesitate for any of this wisdom to sort of like go out any further than escape rooms. But certainly in escape rooms, so there is this idea in psychology, which has since been discredited, and I think correctly so, of the idea of the alpha, beta, and gamma personality types. And I believe that that absolutely they are they've been discredited for a good reason. People don't have static personalities. But when it comes to escape rooms specifically, it's a short period of time in a pressure cooker chamber, and a lot of the sort of details and fine nuances that you get in the real world kind of get boiled away, because it's an escape room and it's a short period of time, and oh my god, we have 15 minutes left, can you please stop screwing around? It has a good way of bringing out strong emotional characteristics in people. And more often than not, there are 3 kind of like personality types that show up into the alpha, the beta, and what I call gamma. And what it is that you've got the alpha people who it's important for them, for their contributions and for their ideas and opinions to be seen and heard by other people.
Yep.
The betas may have ideas and opinions, but it's not important for them to receive recognition for these things, and indeed sometimes they will shy away from recognition. Gammas are interesting because they are actually sort of like flip-floppers. In a room full of alphas, they will look like a beta, and in a room full of betas, they'll look like an alpha. If the room is full of gammas, everyone flip-flops all over the place.
I feel attacked.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah, that's fairly accurate, because you have people who are very narcissistic, and they just and they also become very dominant. They just have to be the most important person in the room. Then other people, it's more important that they see the goal get achieved than they getting recognized for the one who caused it to happen. But
Yeah.
their satisfaction is just seeing the thing work. And
But ideally you want a mix of both and good communication, right? It's like, like for example in a game like environment where I've seen like things the most successful is like when the person that is able to lead the team is listening to the people who are like staying in the back and like thinking about the problems. And in that case, that can work very well, because there is like this kind of like pipeline of ideas where like the people who are at the center are able like to like crystallize and like federate all the ideas and like share them with the team, instead of like everybody like running around like with like headless chickens,
Yeah, generally what'll happen is that if you've got if you have no alphas in the room, nobody really takes any sort of charge, and the whole place is kind of leaderless because no one feels like they have the qualifications to be a leader.
Yeah, well, it's the other way people look at things is there's leaders, and there's leaders and followers, or and like what you're saying, if there's nobody who's really actually being the point person, then the process doesn't go as well. It's an interesting thing. There was like with native cultures, there's a number of different stories that saying the same thing, but basically the say the colonialist will go to the Indian chief, or South Americans, somebody will approach the person they perceive as the one in charge, and they'll tell the person, why don't you tell everybody what to do, we need to get something done. And the person will say, well, if I start telling everybody what to do, then nobody's going to listen to me anymore. And what they mean by that is that they're the person that's the consensus builder, but they're not the person who is the dictator. They're not the one who says, everybody go do this. They're the ones that said, everybody has decided this is what we want to do, and they bring that together into a unified voice so that everybody hears the same message.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like bringing everybody in the same reality.
Yeah, that's actually a good feature of what some of the best escape room teams do, is that in an ideal scenario, the leader of the group, and like there are like 8 different roles that someone can have when they're in an escape room, but like the leader role serves as a clearinghouse of information. So you
need somebody who's basically kind of like getting they're putting it all together so that it crystallizes so it's easily understood. And the thing about the escape rooms, though, is it's also a panic situation. I think that's the thing, is that probably with small teams, one person just freaks out and then nothing happens, because you're like, I can't think. I'm like, I got 2 minutes and then I'm gonna die, and so people they don't work very well under pressure like that. But when you have more people, then somebody can kind of sit back and watch the other person freak out, but then kind of see what's going on, and then they could kind of take over. They're not being the leaders so much as they're just kind of like stepping in when there's an opportunity to fulfill a role of some sort.
Yeah.
Yeah, that echoes to like what I've been talking with Kirsten and other people lately. Well, about like learning patterns, where it's the same. It's like when you're confronted to an overwhelming situation or like a software or like like a discipline that you have to learn. Like you don't start by going to like 0 from 100. You just like split everything into like micro operations, and suddenly it's like much easier to like process for your brain and your nervous system. And actually, it's a bit the same probably in escape rooms. I mean, I've done only a couple of them, but yeah, it's like people kind of like taking turns, to like solve the problem, and panic like feels like more efficient.
I remember
Right.
you saying like one of your best teams before was like a team of gammas. Like they were all gammas, but they were communicating in such a way that they were just like, it was just like boom, boom, boom. They were super in sync.
Yeah, what's super interesting is when you have a whole room of people who are all perfectly willing and feel perfectly entitled to be the leader, but does not feel like they have to be the leader. And that creates a really interesting dynamic, because it's really hard then to track who is the actual leader, because it generally bounces all over the place real fast. And sometimes that actually works really well, especially when there are a bunch of different types of puzzles and challenges that mean that, the leader now should be a solver as opposed to just a clearinghouse, and then have that switch as often as is convenient. But then sometimes it can be interesting because things can get more easily lost if there's not one central nexus of information.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that's been my experience, is that people whenever I'm really impressed with groups of people that, do things well, it's usually because they all work really, really well together, but it's very, very dynamic, and everybody just is chipping away at stuff and getting the work done. But you can't really say any one person's doing it. It's just this kind of group. They're like a single entity. They're just like one thing, kind of like made out of different parts. But they're all kind of doing the same thing together as one entity. And I've seen that in action before, and it's impressive because there's not really any way to like break that down. It just like it's that particular group of people that are just good at it.
Yeah.
Hierarchy also plays a role, I think, like hierarchy in communication, decision making. When like the like decision making is always on one person, it can like bring a lot of issues.
Yeah.
But depending on your specialization,
sometimes you have to have somebody that's kind of like the main person. It's a lot. Oftentimes you still have to have somebody who's doing that.
Single source of truth and all that.
Yeah. Well, one thing about my experience with Burning Man is that there's kind of one person has to know everything, and then everybody else relies on them to tell them what to do, which can work really well if you've got everything figured out beforehand. But one camp that camp right next to one year, they were a hair washing camp, but they had a really big camp and a really big structure they put up. And the way they worked was there was this one guy who didn't actually do any real actual work, but everybody came to that person to get told what needed to get done. And he had everything. They've been out there for years, so they had a really well-oiled machine because everybody had a role, and he was the guy who kind of glued it all together. But he didn't really do any work himself. He just coordinated the whole thing, which is really impressive. And the thing is that you rely on each one of the components to fulfill their role. They have to do what they're supposed to do, or the whole thing falls apart. But that was very efficient. They were a really impressive camp.
Yeah, it's really fun to be a part of a big team that has like a flow state going on.
Yeah. Well, this wasn't so much a flow state. It's like really hot and
yeah,
really tired, but we're
flowing and then we're melting into our
Still flowing.
There's stuff. Yeah, there's sweat flowing out of them. But
Melting into the overall vibe.
Yeah.
fortunately, when they're all done, they can all like wash each other and be happy.
Yeah.
That's a necessary thing. Like I think someone who hasn't been to Burning Man hears hair washing camp. They're like, that's random, until you go there and you realize, like,
That's based.
yeah.
It's not.
It's the best thing ever. Yeah, my hair. It's like after like a couple of days, it's like having clean hair is so good.
Yeah.
Hey, quick question. You guys still hear the music?
No.
No.
Oh, okay. So that's interesting. Weird. Okay, so this is fascinating.
What's your... Sorry, go for it.
All right. So now,
Yeah, I can hear it on Twitch, but I cannot hear it on Discord.
Oh yeah, but that's
Oh,
not a
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Can the people on Twitch can hear it? Okay, because there are actually two.
Oh yeah, it's working on stream.
Yeah, because it's weird. It's like I'm using Twitch's like soundtrack app, and it's basically I have a duplicate audio feed that was going on. I just noticed it. So you guys are actually hearing two simultaneous audio tracks that were the same, and maybe that is the reason why my recording was so messed up last time. I was just wondering if you guys heard any differences in the music when I. You still hear it now, right?
I don't hear any music.
Well, you gotta listen to the stream, and it's still going. It's still
It's
going.
still going? Okay, then I'll just keep off that.
I am in, I think, see, this is why I was having so much trouble with my audio. What I've done is I've launched the Discord app and got, the audio straightened out there, and then just went into my browser and launched Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what that means in terms of how everybody else is doing everything, but that's what worked for me.
No, that's my setup too. But I by default mute Twitch because otherwise we get double audio.
I turn it off on my computer. I just turn it down to where I can't hear it anymore. Well, here, let me turn it up and see if I hear music.
Well, right now the music's super quiet. Let me turn it up a bit.
I hear voice, but I don't hear music on my computer here with the.
Yeah, I have
Twitch?
a couple people in chat saying they can hear the music. So.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know. My audio was like.
Bye, Key. Thanks for stopping in.
I had problems with my audio.
Yeah, another game that's actually that's got a very good kind of a team dynamic going on is this little game that no one's ever heard of called Deep Rock Galactic.
Yep.
And it's fun because you absolutely do have to like maintain your team awareness, or you just get wiped.
Yeah, there's a lot of communication in where you're like, if there's something happening with you, you broadcast it to the team. But if you're too happy, you're like too trigger happy and telling people there's something wrong, it can like also break cohesion. So you have to kind of coordinate to like give people the information that they need, but like make sure that everyone knows like where you are and what's happening. It is pretty interesting.
We should totally play Sea of Thieves like as a team building exercise.
Yeah.
Well, every group dynamic depends on what it is that the group's doing. It's different for different things.
Yeah, I've been hearing a little bit about Sea of Thieves. It was just being talked about in a chat. How is that different from? I think it was like Guns of Icarus.
I don't know that one.
Because it sounds very similar, except it's airships instead of sea ships.
Let me check.
From what I'm able to understand, it's like it's a team building theme in which you have like a gunner and an engineer and a captain, and everyone's running all over the place trying to like move your ship around so that you can successfully sink the other airships.
Yeah, it seems a bit similar. Yeah, it's like it's kind of the same. But yeah, you don't have any like base roles that you take on. Like everybody can do like whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, everybody can do whatever they
It's
want.
always the same as well. There is no class.
Well, yeah, because everybody can do whatever they want. It's just that some people are better at certain things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it seems similar to Guns of Icarus, or what I've seen from the gameplay.
So it's basically Guns of Icarus with fewer dimensions.
And yeah, also like, I mean, it seems that in Gun of Icarus it's mostly PvP, while like Sea of Thieves is axed PvP, but you can also do a lot of exploration, or like
Okay.
PvE.
Yeah, it was very had, how do I say, session based. Guns of Icarus.
Sea of Thieves is very good at like being session based, but your session can last as long as you want, and it will probably try to bait you into staying as long as possible.
Yeah.
It's like
Probably
the
explains why they're
adventure
better.
comes to you. Like there is always some kind of loot that will like drag you into another like couple hours. It's a trap. But it's very good. And there's a fishing mini game, so it's a good game.
Well, as I should as all good games do, because like Spiritfarer has a fishing game, so therefore all good games have fishing games.
Well, we should talk about the fishing game in Chroma Circuits.
Oh right, yeah. So Kirsten, what are we doing about the fishing game?
She's like, how do I escape this situation?
I am thinking about this, that thing was posted in the group of like the little flow chart of like, you know, is your video game good? Does it have a fishing game? Yes.
Yeah.
Your game is good. No, it's shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, we definitely need to integrate that one. I think probably in the solo player lobby, like, so we need to have like a bit of expansive water such that by the track, so that like when you can stop the race, stop the track, and then push a button and it'll cast a line out from your car while the race timer is going.
You can fish for like paint power-ups, or you could also paint for like extra Nova boosts as like a super rare thing.
God.
It's like the,
you know how like when you're doing fishing
harpoon
games,
on top of your
you
car?
always get like old boots.
You know, the worst part of it is like you could probably leave me in my cave for a couple of days, and I will come back with a fishing lobby mini game that like unlocks like cosmetic and stuff like that.
It's being added. Final.
So you have a special color, and you have to catch the fish that's that color. And if you want to use that paint in your car, you're gonna have to catch that fish.
Oh, that's great.
We should totally do that.
Sold.
And if you catch another fish, you maybe, I don't know.
Like production time gets pushed back like 6 months, and we're just like, worth it.
Nah, this is unreal. We can do a fishing mini game in like a couple of days. It will totally happen. I'll do it on my free time if I have to.
One way or another.
I mean, I do like the idea of like some kind of an idle activity when players are waiting in the lobby, because if this game is like, it's gonna take a while to like build up steam, and you may have it where if you want to have 8 people racing at the same time, the first one in the room is going to have to wait for like a couple of minutes before a race can start. And so giving people like a fun little thing to do is not the worst idea.
You see, the idea is sinking in. Create a fishing currency that people can use to buy skins and stuff.
But primarily to buy better bait to get better fish. And it just keeps going, and it just keeps going.
Oh no.
Honestly, something that fills the exact same kind of like feeling that you get from a fishing game, but that could be a something.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of how that would translate to like vehicles. Like, you know, you could. Well, the initial idea was people could just paint, and you'd have like the ground would be a canvas, and so like as people are like waiting for the match to start, they're just like doing drifting and loop-the-loops, and like, you know, maybe they can change their colors pretty, like, you know, by running over, you know, these color beds, and then they're basically just like making art while they wait for the match to start. That's kind of my default like thought on that.
I could see that.
And then like you can, maybe at the end of the match, you can see a top-down view of what everyone painted at the beginning. Like, this is what we all created together, kind of thing.
I could see that. My immediate thought is that you could do something like that. You could also maybe have a thing where it's like you're sitting in. Maybe there's like. If you want to be like really kind of glitch about it, you could have like the equivalent of like a car bench.
Oh gosh, really?
It's like a park bench, but for cars. And it's in the single player, it's in the hub world, and it's somewhere hard to find. You get there, you go up to it, and the car model just sort of like tilts upward as if it's sitting on the bench.
I don't like where it's going. This is not okay. I feel bad.
It's cute to think about for about like 5 seconds, and then I think it gets really old.
We'd get streamers that are like, "This is the cutest thing ever," and then we'd make millions of dollars. Do you not want to make millions of dollars? It would take
that
like
would be dirty money.
It would take like half an hour of development time.
Is that your plan? Make a fishing mini games, get rich, make more fishing mini games.
No, this isn't even involving fishing. It's just like the equivalent of like how in some games you can walk up to like a chair or something and sit in it for a while and the music fades in and it's nice.
I wanna put a deformer on the cars so they look like they're actually like scrunched up in the bench.
That's amazing. I wasn't gonna put that much effort into it, but actually that'd be amazing.
I wonder who will have to do all this work. I'm kidding.
Probably the technical artist.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yes, I will definitely spend like countless hours making like vertex animation textures on your like car mesh to like.
Car's just like picking up a martini with a tire.
Oh god.
Oh, that sounds horrifying.
I'm gonna head out here.
Now's a good time to leave.
It was good meeting you.
Yeah, I'm starting to get a bit pooped too. I'm probably gonna want to get back to my studies.
Yeah, same actually. We can go together.
Yeah, this is really fun. Thanks everyone who came in, both in voice and in text. I appreciate you all being here. And yeah, let's keep doing this. Yeah, have a good night, everybody. Bye.
Cheers.
Good night all.